This unit introduces a concept of supplementary material. A supplement reading or extra reading is considered to be an addition to the main reading. Usually these extra reading uh, kind of supports, gives more information to the main text. Usually in academic textbooks, authors often supplement the primary material in the text with information in text boxes or sidebars. These supplements generally contain information that will add to your understanding of the main text. When you read this extra material, try to determine its purpose and how important it is. So, the supplement reading that we are about to read is called An Early Study in Epigenetics. It's going to go back in time to where it actually all started. A story that is on the cutting edge of modern science began in an isolated part of northern Sweden in the 19th century. This area of the country had unpredictable harvests through the first half of the century. In years that the harvest failed, the population went hungry. However, the good years were very good. So, this story is about epigenetics, and the way epigenetics is described uh, is as such on the cutting edge of modern science. Cutting edge means advanced, right? At the very edge, pioneering. So it is the most recent modern science. In this case, is epigenetic. So the story of epigenetic, it all started in the secluded part of northern Sweden, an isolated, a remote part of northern Sweden. So there's rarely people going in and out of the specific area in the 19th century. So it's more than 100 years ago. Um, we consider epigenetic part of the most the newest modern science there is, right? But its journey began more than 100 years ago. This area of the country had unpredictable harvests through the first half of the century. So this particular area, this northern part of Sweden, um, the harvests were, sometimes they had good harvest and sometimes they had bad. And no one knew when the good harvest and bad harvest will, occur. So they might have a lot of problems dealing with that problem. And this unpredictability, this happened in the first half of the century, meaning between 1801 to 1850. That's the first half of the 19th century. So from our standpoint of view, it's more than 150 years ago. In years that the harvest failed, the population went hungry. So when there was no harvest or bad harvest, there was rarely anything to eat. So people ate nothing, barely nothing. However, the good years were very good. So when they had harvest, they had plenty to eat, more than enough to eat. So this is a country, this is a map of Europe and Sweden. And I would say the story occurred in the northern part, in a very cold area, I might have to add. The same people who went hungry during bad harvests overate significantly during the good years. A Swedish scientist wondered about the long-term effects of these eating patterns. He studied the harvest and held records of the area. He was astonished by what he found. So the same people, exactly the same people who starved during the bad harvest, they overate significantly, very much during the good years. So when they had little to eat, they barely ate anything. But when they had plenty, they stuffed themselves with food. That's what it's saying. A Swedish scientist wondered about the long-term effects of these eating patterns. So a scientist, a curious bunch, I have to add, wondered what will happen, long period of time. What will happen if these people, on one year they eat really, nothing, next to nothing, and the next they eat more than enough, and then they eat nothing again. What happens to a person if that process repeats and repeats over and over again? And he studied the harvest, and health records, the records, the historical documents and records, and he realized something surprising. He was really astonished, really surprised or shocked. Boys who overate during the good years produced children and grandchildren who died about 6 years earlier than the children and grandchildren of those who had very little to eat. Other scientists found the same result for girls. So this specific scientist studied group of boys. I, I have to assume, I guess. So these boys, these overeating boys, the people who overate, they had children and their grandchildren. Their life expectancy, their life were 6 years shorter than the children who didn't really eat that much. Um, So that's the effect. That's the result. This particular scientist found, right? And other scientists, I guess, were also curious about this whole situation and did the same, you know, uh, research, but with a different candidates. In this instance, girls, and the results were the same. The scientists were forced to conclude that just one season of overeating could have a negative impact that continued for generations. In other words, environmental conditions altered gene expression, establishing new traits within a generation. So the scientists didn't want to accept this fact. They had to they had to accept this fact. So they were forced to conclude that just one season, just 1 year of overeating could affect, negatively affect not just the person who overate, but their offspring, generation after generation. So, to word it differently, environmental conditions alter gene expression. Environmental conditions may not change the gene itself, but the expression of turning on or off. So this established new traits within a generation. This established new, new traits, for instance, being fat, more obesity in the family, that kind of change. Reading skill A. Regarding to the supplementary material, an early study in epigenetics, what do you think the general purpose of this material is? You may pause the video to fill in your answer. You don't have to write in a sentence. You can just write in words. To give you a clue, hint, it's a 2-word. Right. What was the general purpose for this supplemental reading? It's for scientific study. It gives you a case study. How in a specific location there was this event, this situation, how these group of people, have changed throughout a different series of famine and plentiful harvest. B. Check the ones that are discussed and supported in the supplementary material. 1. Twins share virtually the same genes. 2. Even though every cell contains the same DNA, one may become a muscle cell and another may become a skin cell. 3. Scientists believe that your behavioral choices can lead to epigenetic changes. 4. What has astonished scientists is that these effects could be passed on to the next generation. Number 5. The choices that a mother makes during pregnancy are significant for the child's future health. So, these 5 information are stated in our main text, my main reading number 2. But out of these 5, which of these 5 are supported or discussed in the supplementary material? You may pause the video and fill in your answers. Okay, so there are actually 3 sentences, 3 that is dealt in the supplementary material. It's number 1, twins share virtually the same genes. Number 3, scientists believe that your behavioral choices can lead to epigenetic changes. Number 4, what has astonished scientists is that these effects could be passed on to the next generation. But these 3 3 have been discussed, have been supported in the supplementary material.